By the middle of World War II, assault artillery was experiencing a real golden age. Both Soviet and German engineers arrived at the same basic concept. Both sides needed mobile, armored, mass-produced vehicles to smash fortified positions. The Germans solved this issue by introducing the StuG series. The USSR developed several assault guns in different calibers, including heavy artillery. And that's how the SU-152 was born, an assault gun that quickly became notorious as a very effective tank killer. The USSR first considered designing a suitable assault gun in late 1941. After the successful defense of Moscow, the Red Army was preparing to go on the offensive, and breaking through enemy fortifications required heavy caliber guns. Specialized armored vehicles with such weapons were in short supply, so the troops mostly relied on towed artillery, the M10, ML-20, and A-19. Engineers spent some time looking for the right approach. They looked at 122mm guns and experimented with multi-gun concepts like the KV-7. Then the situation changed again. The attempt to reclaim Kharkiv ended in failure, and priorities shifted. The idea of a heavy assault gun came back to the forefront only after the initiative was seized by the Red Army yet again, during the final stages of the Battle of Stalingrad. By that time, the USSR had already fully recognized the merits of the German StuG. A design team led by Lev Gorlitsky developed the SU-152, an M30 howitzer mounted on a T-34 chassis. The engineers worked out the basic casemate layout, crew positioning, and weight distribution. The next logical step was a more heavily armored KV chassis paired with an even heavier gun to create true assault artillery. The military received several proposals from different teams and ultimately chose a concept based on the work of Joseph Kotin. The plan was to use the chassis of the up-armored KV-1S with a refined transmission. On top of that, they would mount a fighting compartment with sloped armor about 70mm thick, armed with an ML-20S gun howitzer. The gun was offset slightly to the right of the centerline, which made it easier to fit the recoil system and breech while giving the crew more room to work. Apart from the casemate, the hull was pretty much the same as on the base tank. The idea was to put the vehicle into production as quickly as possible. This was the design that went into production as the SU-152. Initially, it was seen as a weapon against infantry and fortifications, but it could also fire over open sights if needed. In practice, its career kicked off with a bang, literally, as a pure tank destroyer, as just over 20 production models took part in the Battle of Kursk. Incidentally, that battle was the debut for both the SU-152 and the German Ferdinand. The baptism of fire was a success. 152mm high-explosive shells of the Soviet assault gun were dangerous even to the most heavily armored German vehicles, such as the Panther and Tiger. The vehicle could also carry armor-piercing rounds, but they were often in short supply, so the crews made do with HE and even semi-armor-piercing naval shells. These could knock out a tank even without penetration. The resulting shockwave, fragmentation, and damage to internal components and running gear were more than enough to take care of German armor. Despite its successful combat record, the SU-152 didn't stay in production for long. By the end of the war, the era of KVs was coming to a close, and naturally, the assault gun built on that platform also exited the stage. Furthermore, the vehicle had some inherent flaws that were never fixed because of its rushed introduction. The fighting compartment was cramped, certain areas were too vulnerable to enemy fire, and there were other issues, big and small. Some of these problems were solved in the next version of the assault gun, the ISU-152, which was produced in considerably larger numbers and remained in service even after the war. Technically, the SU-152 could provide indirect fire, but its primary job as a heavy assault gun was to provide direct fire support to advancing troops. For its effectiveness against German heavy armor, Soviet tankers nicknamed it Zveroboy, the Beast Slayer. In War Thunder, it sits at rank 3 in the Soviet tech tree, among the tanks of the early to mid-war period. The SU-152 is a formidable but demanding vehicle. It boasts strong armor and a massive gun, but it does not tolerate any mistakes and requires a calm, methodical approach to unlock its full potential. Weighing about 45 tons, it accelerates steadily, reaches a speed of roughly 40 kilometers an hour, and has a good reverse gear, a strong selling point, especially for a heavy vehicle. Gun traverse is slow, about 8 degrees per second horizontally, and just 2 degrees vertically. That said, the gun can swing 12 degrees left and right, and, if you ever need that, elevate up to 18 degrees. So you will have the target in your sights on most terrain, but it takes time. The assault gun has access to 3 shell types: an APHE, an APHE-BC, and a powerful HE round, packing nearly 6 kilograms of explosive matter. Vehicles like the Panzer III and IV will be blown to smithereens with any of those 3. When engaging tougher targets like Churchills, you have to start caring about where you hit. Aim for the belly, the roof of the turret, or just above the hull roof. One thing to remember: HE shells can detonate on bushes, fences, and other obstacles. The SU-152 doesn't have an AA machine gun, so your only defenses against aircraft and fast skirmishers are distance, cover, and discipline. The frontal armor will confidently stop the hits coming from early Shermans and Panzer IIIs, but long-barreled anti-tank guns will punch right through both the hull and the casemate. Add a reload time of over 20 seconds, even longer with a depleted crew, and it's clear, you have almost no margin for error. The SU-152 works best as a fire support vehicle that operates at medium to long range. If you find good positions and move behind your allies, the ballistics and raw power of the gun will let you simply delete light and heavy vehicles alike with just a single shot. The key is to avoid exposing yourself to return fire and to immediately reverse out of trouble when things go south. Played carefully, the Beast Slayer has very few equals. Caution and the ability to land first shots will make you almost untouchable. Do you enjoy using the famous Beast Slayer? Let us know in the comments down below.